Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask you all to please stand for a moment of silence. We had our high school principal lost his middle school principal lost his wife, so we want to say a prayer for his family. Thank you. First item on our agenda tonight is superintendent's of school. Dr. Stinnett.
Thank you, Mr. Vidone. I'm just going to give this is a workshop meeting, so welcome everyone. I'm not going to go into an in-depth school update. I'll save that for the meeting on the 27th, but I do want to let the community know that with each passing week, our schools are getting more and more back to normal. And if there is such a thing anymore, we are still encountering cases of COVID in our buildings among our students and staff, but fortunately the percentage is very low. It's well under 1% for the entire district. I was at a meeting today at Stony Brook, and we heard from one of the specialists in child infections, and he was guardedly optimistic. He doesn't feel that COVID has completely gone away, but certainly what the medical professionals are seeing is that the severity of cases among students is not, they're not severe. It's not unlike a cold. So he didn't promise us, but he led us to believe that for the foreseeable future there would be no need to return to some of the more stringent precautions that we had to observe earlier this school year. Moving along, I also want to draw the community's attention. We have a number of middle school students who competed in designing and creating resources for a sustainable future, and that was recently covered on News 12. We've shared that link with the board, and that link will also be available to the public. I've asked Dr. Krishoni to speak tonight, as this is a workshop meeting, to talk about the multi-tiered system of student supports. Sayville has done an exceptional job over the years of not just addressing the academic needs of our students, but of addressing the whole child. And so Dr. Krishoni's presentation will share some of the things that we are currently doing and that we will continue to expand the services to our students. Dr. Krishoni?
Thank you, Dr. Stemmer. So I did want to bring the board's attention to a program called Multi-Tiered System of Supports, or shortened MTSS. If you've not heard of it, it's basically a new version of RTI. RTI we've all heard of, correct? So I just wanted to go over some things with you. What is Multi-Tiered System of Supports? Well, it's a process for supporting all students academically, socially, and behaviorally based on data. So in the past, when we looked at RTI, it was based on academics, but MTSS really looks at the whole child. It's proactive and preventative, so it's reaching the children's needs before it becomes worse. It requires shared responsibility of all the staff. It utilizes data to make decisions, and it's designed to benefit from collaborative reflection and problem solving. So some background information to remind you of some things. On July 1st, 2012 is when all New York State districts were required to have a response to intervention program in place. Response to intervention is a process where educators use data from assessments to guide instructional decisions and help students achieve grade level standards. Educators work to adjust instruction and provide support to students who are demonstrating difficulty. Stakeholders from across our district developed the district's RTI plan back in 2011. An update to our plan was presented to the Board of Education in February 2018. We updated our screeners and our database, starting with the 2018-19 school year. And the New York State ESSA plan, not ESSER, but ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act, which came about after NCLB, incorporated MTSS for both academic and behavioral instruction. So one of the things, we have a stakeholders group, and one of the things that the stakeholders had brought to our attention back in 2018 is that they really wanted to have a behavioral component along with the academic component. So one of the ways we address that is by creating now an MTSS plan rather than just an RTI plan. So really, it's a whole child approach. We're not just looking at academics. We're looking at behavior and academics together. Because is the academic issue caused because the student's not in a classroom to receive instruction, or is the behavior issue caused by academic frustration? Really, students need both. We need to address both the academics and behavior for them to be successful. So what does that look like? And what are the similarities to RTI? It really incorporates many of the same components. So it has data collection and an assessment system, including universal screenings, diagnostics, progress monitoring to inform decisions appropriate for each tier of service delivery. And we'll go over that in a second. It relies on problem-solving systems. So we're looking to solve problems and a method to identify problems, develop interventions, and evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention in a multi-tiered system of supports. It seeks and implements appropriate research-based interventions for improving student learning. It utilizes school-wide and classroom research-based positive behavioral supports for achieving important social and learning outcomes. And it implements a collaborative approach to analyze student data and working together in the intervention process. So it's really a team approach. Multi-tiered system of supports. I'm sure you've seen the triangle in the past, but basically the triangle represents 80 to 85% of your students would typically be tier 1. That's the majority of your students. Tier 2 students would be about 10 to 15% of your population, and tier 3, which would be the fewest amount of students, 3 to 5%, which would need the most intense interventions. So looking at this for both academics and behavioral, tier 1 is our core instruction and support in the classroom, every classroom. So all students receive tier 1 instruction and support. General academic and behavior instruction and support provided to all students in all settings is what is considered tier 1. Tier 2 is targeted, supplemental interventions and support. So it's more targeted supplemental support in addition to what the core academic and behavior curriculum is provided. So that group, that 10 to 15% of students would receive this in addition to the tier 1. Tier 3, that very small group, would not only get the tier 1 and the tier 2, but they would in addition get tier 3, which is really intensive, individualized interventions and supports. This really has more time, a narrow focus, a reduced group size to really address student needs. It's an instruction and intervention based on individual student need, in addition to tier 1 and 2. So how do we go about this? We have screenings 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And the screening is a measure. It's basically taking a temperature for all of our students to see, is the tier 1 instruction that we're providing effective? It helps us answer that question. And also, which students need additional assessment and instruction to make progress towards grade level goals? So we do get a sense of where all of our students are based on that screening. And we monitor throughout the year, and we check to see that they're still sustaining grade level goals or if they're falling below. Progress monitoring is when we check on their progress. So in between the screenings, when students need assistance, are they meeting short and long-term performance goals? Are they making progress at an acceptable rate? And do instructional strategies and interventions need to be adjusted or changed? We don't want to wait 3 to 4 months to find out the child is not successful. We want to keep monitoring that they're doing well in the goals that we've set. So that would be for our tier 2 and our tier 3 students. We would progress monitor academically and behaviorally to see how they're doing. Data-based decision-making, deciding what works. So we've changed our focus strictly. We used to have data teams. We've changed it to problem-solving teams because we really foster a sense of collegiality and mutual support among educators, promote the use of evidence-based interventions, and assist the teachers in carrying out the intervention plans. Our teams meet each week, and they focus on tier 2 and 3 students. So every elementary building has a problem-solving team that meets and discusses our students and their plans and tracks how they're doing. What's the protocol for problem solving? Really, we identify who and what we're concerned about. So who are the students we're concerned about, and what are the issues they bring to the table that we're concerned about. We analyze the problem. Why do we think this problem is occurring? We implement a plan. What can we do about the issues that they're having? And we evaluate it once it is implemented, and is it successful? So it's this continuous circle all year long to make sure our students are successful and continue to make progress. So who are on the problem-solving teams? Classroom teachers, the school psychologist, our social worker, the reading specialist, the math specialist, special ed teacher, speech teacher, and the principal. So this group meets weekly to really analyze the data and make sure that we're meeting the children's needs. So what are some of the type of data points that we analyze? Well, we look at attendance. We look at a behavior rating scale, which I'm going to talk to you about today. Classroom observations, classroom work samples, diagnostic assessments, report cards, running records, teacher feedback, and writing assessments. Basically, any kind of data point you could think of, we look at, because we really want to look at a big picture, not just one single test score. So I mentioned the behavior rating scale, and one of the things that we are implementing is called the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, or DESA for short. So in order to move us to the MTSS process, which is adding the behavioral component to the academic component, we need to assess where our students are behaviorally. So DESA assesses 8 social and emotional competencies and is intended to help educators plan instruction, document students' strengths and areas of need, and inform progress monitoring and evaluate program outcomes so we can see what's successful and what isn't. There's something called a mini screener, which takes approximately 1 minute, and it's 8 questions. It's not the students who fill out the questions, it's the teachers who respond once they get to know their students. So they have to have the students for at least 4 weeks and be able to answer these questions about each of the students in their class, such as, during the past 4 weeks, how often did the child accept responsibility for what he or she did? How often did they do something nice for somebody? How often did they speak about positive things? How often did they pay attention? These are things that classroom teachers are noticing anyway and that we're reporting on our report cards. So by completing this mini screener of 8 different questions, they have a valid and reliable result, and it will show flags if there is a concern. So this helps us determine if there's anything that we need to look into further. So if there are further concerns, we would do something called diagnostic, which is more in depth and asks more questions. And again, the teacher is the one who completes this, not the students. And it really measures the domains of social emotional competence. And this would only be for students that typically display that there's a need in a specific area. Once we have those results, we would sit as a team and look at possible interventions. And I just wanted to show you what the DESA competencies are. It's self-awareness, self-management, goal-directed behavior, social awareness, relationship skills, personal responsibility, decision-making, and optimistic thinking. So these are the areas that would be assessing. What are some sample behavior interventions? Well, for Tier 1, school-wide behavior expectations. These are things that we do as a school. Social emotional lessons that are going on in the classrooms right now. Clubs that the students participate in. Character trait things that we have going on in buildings. That's happening for classrooms, throughout the schools, so that is what's considered Tier 1 because it's universal for all students. Tier 2, you would start looking at more specific concerns and looking at implementing things such as weekly check-ins for certain students, maybe behavior contracts, perhaps group counseling or mentoring, perhaps peer mediation for certain students. So again, it becomes some more specific concerns and more specific interventions for students. Then when we get down to Tier 3, which is our smallest group of students, it would then be really more intense, things like counseling, looking at functional behavior assessments, looking at behavior intervention plans. But typically, that's a much smaller population. This is just samples. This is not everything that's possible. I just want to give you an idea of how that process works. So, MTSS and Sayville. MTSS, and this is from the New York State ESSA, Every Student Succeeds application to the government. MTSS is grounded in the belief that all students can learn and all school professionals are responsive to the academic and behavioral needs of all students. Our mission is to provide all students with the attributes for lifelong learning, career readiness, and responsible citizenship. So MTSS will ensure that each student, based on their unique needs, will receive the level and type of help necessary to be successful. the board have any questions.
So after the teacher performs the mini diagnostic, what's the turnaround time for if they determine that they need the full, the decibel? Is they have to have meetings?
Yeah,
approve it?
they would go through, what happens is we have a data sort after the initial screeners. And so whether it's the academic piece, which we use iReady for the academic piece, we look at the scores on the math and the ELA, and we would look at these scores, and then the team would decide which students would then go on for the next step.
Okay. And then I know this is to check to see if the kids are sustaining their level of work they're performing. Are there any steps in place for kids that are exceeding the goals?
Absolutely. I mean, we definitely have enrichment pieces for students that are exceeding. And we do have things, differentiation in the classroom for students that do score high.
Because their needs may also be
They may have strengths in
different.
certain areas. And this actually, what's great about this screener is it shows their strengths. So you will see areas that they really have high strengths in, and then we can tap into that as well.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Do we start this at the kindergarten level?
Yes.
Okay, and does it go all the way through to?
This actually goes K to 12.
Okay.
The DESA will go through high school.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So RTI will cease.
This will take place in RTI.
And I know RTI is it's evolved over time.
Mhm.
Like in the beginning, it was very test
Yes.
volume. So this, I guess, follows that lead and it's
Correct.
less.
And that's been a move we've been going for quite a while, and we've switched from being so test-focused and really looking at the whole child, so this made sense to go in this direction. We changed our assessment so that it didn't take as much time away from the classroom. We were spending, in the beginning, a long time, kids in hallways, taking tests, and lots of time out of classroom, and we've really sped that up. We've found an assessment that's much better with that. We've also updated our database, so it's much easier to access all the information when the teams are sitting, and you can see, and the teachers can add their own information in there as well, not just a set assessment.
I like the holistic approach and the fact that it's anecdotal as well as, accurate.
The model looks a lot like a PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports tiered service. It's almost exactly like a
Right.
template, which is, that's basically school-wide behavior management. This is a much, to me, a more meaningful tool than purely based upon academics. I mean, student engagement levels, if that's not part of this process, then what's the value of looking at the performance if you're not looking at engagement? This is right-headed compared to a lot of prior models, which I think were very wrong-headed. So,
What's nice at the secondary level is this will give us a good piece of data. There's also a early warning indicator for graduation, which is really nice because it'll pull in the students' report card grades in there, stuff, so that's the attendance, a lot of
I
information.
like the model. My only thought is, I think the model is very rational. I think it represents a nice approach. My thought is just the way we kind of do everything, we're getting a lot of stakeholder involvement in actually shaping practices that can come to that model. That just seems like that's where like we've done everything we've done. That's where you get your buy-in, so that it's not just, it's great. On the back end, we look at data. I want to know, like, do people believe in what they're doing? You know what I mean? So I think the more involvement we could have in shaping those, just in that.
This does show, from what I'm hearing, the strengths of the students. For instance, if someone has a strength, they say, math, science, you'll see that strength, even though they're a little weaker in the other areas, which I think is excellent, because everybody is,
Is this rolled out, is it a state mandate to use this program for all schools, or are we just,
No,
we're fulfilling?
We're fulfilling it by using
Places. So it's customized for our district.
Yes, we definitely. We're not lockstep with anybody else. We do what our stakeholders want us to do.
Good.
And Dr. Krishoni has been working with the building principals, with the different teams in the building, and I just want to, give a shout out to all of our educators, administrators, support staff, and teachers, because this process has been going on now for over 10 years, and it's constantly evolving. And under Dr. Krishoni's leadership, it just, every year is an improvement on the year before, so kudos, to all involved. At the end of the day, these are all our kids, and the bottom line is we want them to be successful, not just academically, but as a whole child. And the parents become an integral part of this too. They get ongoing feedback. So it's, this is one of those things that if you go back 10 years, go back 15 years, there's been tremendous growth in terms of what we've done, and it is tailored to Sayville. It's,
What's the communication piece to the parents?
So we let
How
them-
good things are.
So typically, with the screenings, we do let them know if the child has moved the level and is going to be.
No, I'm just saying, because we're rolling this out next year.
Right, so a letter is going, we're going to actually test it out at the end of this year, so a letter will go out to the parents before we do that.
Okay,
And explain, so it will become familiar.
okay.
and I think the principals have been talking about it at their PTA meetings, so.
The teachers have had some training on it, so.
It's no good to each.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kashani. If there's no other questions, I just want to let the board know, we've been doing many things in the area of facilities. Our buildings are getting a little bit older, so there have been areas that have needed attention, such as bathrooms, gymnasiums, lighting. So I'm going to ask Dr. Gurgis to just touch base and bring the board up to date on some of those projects that are ongoing.
Thank you, Dr. Stemmel. I'll give a brief synopsis, more detail in future board meetings as projects are completed. First one, Lincoln Avenue Women's Faculty Bathroom, which I brought up before. That is fully completed. We do have the partitions. They did go in, so it is fully operational, unlike the pictures from last time. The high school attendance office bathroom also has been completed. The high school ceiling project, which has been going on for several months, is underway. We do hope that's going to be finished pretty soon. Cherry Avenue kindergarten bathrooms and 2 of the classrooms requiring attention that will be conducted during the April break within 2 weeks. The same, which was brought up at a previous meeting, the Sayville High School gymnasium painting will commence and finish during the April break. Concurrent with that project, lighting replacement at the gymnasium to improve the aesthetic. That will be done actually by our staff after the painting project, and we do anticipate a PSE&G rebate. That's something that's been brought up in several circles in government chats as of late, bringing back electricity-based rebates. Sunrise Drive, we have some casework replacement in several classrooms. That will also be done during the April break. And also we are underway with the Lincoln Avenue electrical panel replacement. So those are what's going on now, and I'll provide more updates in the coming board meetings as these come to completion.
The panel at Lincoln Avenue, you said?
The electrical panel, yes.
Because we're adding additional items that the panel's not sufficient enough?
Yes, yeah, after so often you have to upgrade your electric and also your number of ports.
Are we going a little higher than what we expect, just in case we have to add anything else in the future?
Yes. Energy efficiency.
Yeah. More power, less energy, right?
So just last item under my report. Every year, it's a little bit of a balancing act to coordinate the projected school calendar with BOCE's projected calendar, with other calendars that may impact our school calendar. So we had to tweak it. We're presenting to the board. This is the latest ideation of the calendar for the 22-23 school year, and Dr. Branscombe and I are fairly confident that this will be the last adjustment, but we, like I said, there is a little bit of going back and forth with other calendars, and so this one took a little bit of tweaking. One of the things we have to keep in mind is many of our students access programs through BOCES, so we have to make every effort possible to make sure our calendar is in sync with BOCES calendar. So that's part of the reason for the adjustment, but I think we're there. So would you agree, Dr. Branscombe?
I think we're there. Functionally, it really, the slight change we made did not impact students. It was more of a setting up a superintendent's conference day, moving to another spot that we had a day off and vice versa. So from a student perspective, no impact at all.
And that's it for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Any questions on the items? Great. Next item on our agenda is Board of Education discussion. We have 3 items on there. The first one is a high school musical. Norm, you want to speak to that?
It was just unbelievable how talented our youth is in the, doing all these plays and programs and everything else like that. And if you have never gotten out to see one of the plays or anything else like that, I recommend it very, very highly, because we have talent out there that puts Broadway to shame. Because when you watch them and you see what they're doing and everything, they're into it. They're into it. They put their heart and soul into it and everything.
I guess we're all grateful now that we're actually, we're actually up on the stage. We have audiences. We're back to some sense of normalcy. Not all there yet, but we're getting there. And just tonight, I unfortunately didn't get a chance to get to the play. Just to know that these kids had the opportunity to act out, and with their fellow students in front of an audience of their parents and their friends and family and relatives, I think it's great, and I certainly hope we can continue down this road and make it thank you for coming.
I attended too, it's great. The actors and the pit too, the band, they were great too. Yeah. Talent all around.
The other thing is when you watch the plays and everything, and you see the movement of the
stage crew.
Crew.
They're great.
It's
quick.
Nobody got into anybody else's way, or took it away from what was going on. It was just
Never underestimate the stage crew. Listen, I did stage crew with my kids for many, many years, and what goes on behind those scenes, building the sets, moving the sets, doing the wardrobes, and this is all done mostly by our students with some support staff from our parents. It's amazing. Some of the sets they build, it's like I want them to come put windows in my house. Maybe not so much, but they use a lot of used lumber, but otherwise. Okay, thank you. The second item is we originally scheduled a Board of Education retreat on April 13th. We have since changed that to we're having a special Board of Education meeting on that date. The third item is security credentials, and I think Dr. Birch is going to be speaking to that.
Yeah, I actually wanted to propose the idea of moving forward with a resolution. Actually, it would come from our board to the Nassau County Suffolk School Boards. Currently, to be a school security professional, your credential is the same exact credential as you would have in Home Depot or anything like that. In other words, the curriculum itself that's related to getting that credential, it's not school specific, and oftentimes, I've talked to people that develop those curriculum, they're actually told to pull school materials out because it can't be only for school security guards. And I think in today's age, given this, the threat of harm to students, it just seems to make sense that we would require and expect a specialized degree of training of school security guards. I think they would provide additional set of monitoring to support the administration in keeping students safe. And there's a lot of states that have actually moved that way, about 12 total. So I wanted to put forward the idea, a group that I'm part of has kind of informally met with the New York State PTA Council. And we actually have a Zoom planned to meet with their resolutions chair, because we would also like to propose a resolution to the PTA group for consideration by New York State.
Yeah, PTA can put one up too.
I want to come through the board though, because I think to me it's about, I think for me personally, coming from a background in school safety, because I'm a school-based administrator, I learned a lot from some of the school security people that I work with in terms of student safety. I think this would go a long way to making our schools more safe. And I think, if the burden, from the standpoint of professionalizing it is really on the people that are looking to work in the schools. It's not, it's not really on the school. Like, for example, the credential that you're expected to have to be a teacher's assistant and a teacher's aide is more comprehensive than you would be expected to have to be a school security person. We're lucky. We have a lot of law enforcement that come here. So, like, for me, I'm very happy and grateful for the kind of quality training and people we have here. I think, though, but people coming after them, like, I really would like to see people with more specialized school training. I think we do a great job in-house. I know we do, like, a lot of de-escalation training. That's part of training our security guards in school. That we are one of probably 15 or 20 schools on Long Island that do that. Because a lot of the times that's viewed by people, oftentimes in those positions as well, like, you know, well, whatever, well, why do you need to de-escalate? Well, because a child is not a person that broke the law. It's a child. It's a different lens. So I think for me, I just want to kind of put that out there amongst the board and something that we can continue to discuss. I would like to propose the idea of a resolution that would maybe come from us. And I brought this up, I think, last year too. But I think things are starting to move on, you know, like for a group. So it's something that I definitely would want to discuss more.
Well, and in lieu of, you know, when you do resolutions, especially in the New York State School Boards Association as well as National Suffolk School Boards Association, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be passed into
Right.
law. It means it's going to go before, you know,
Right.
the Assembly and the governor, or they can vote on it or not. I think the idea of credentials, I mean, we don't need a resolution to be able to do that. We can still provide those types of training to our staff, and we can actually even tuition people in if we have to. But when you do a resolution, it becomes more countywide, statewide.
And that really is the level. I'm actually, like, I look at our security staff and I think, I wish that this was a requirement for the state. Because I look at it, and that's not the way school boards work. We look at our kids, and we're only our kids. I just look at it from the standpoint of school safety. I think when your curriculum, like when you're recertifying for a school security guard, if it's all school specific, it sends a different message to someone that's recertifying. So I think for me is, you know, resolution, I appreciate you saying that, John, because a resolution means that it's being considered.
It's being considered, but,
Right.
and people want it could sunset.
Right.
It's going to be on there, but, you know, we vote on resolutions, New York State School Boards Association, matter of fact, Norm is our delegate to vote on the resolutions. I sat on the National Suffolk School Boards Resolution Committee a number of times. You can do the resolution, but it's very tough to get the law passed, to get the credentials. I would like to see what verbiage you put in the resolution, exactly what type of credentials you would expect from the security people.
Yeah, and I think for me,
It means so much. Credentials, that means you don't have to, you know.
Well, and I would also ask for them, you know, the feedback from the administration as
Yeah.
well. Because I wouldn't know what language.
No, I have no idea what language is.
and I'm part of a group of, there's like 4 or 5 of us. So for me is I can definitely get language that we have in mind for a
If I'm
resolution.
talking about the administration.
Right.
I mean, because I don't know anything what the requirements are
Yeah.
for this position, you know, I would depend on the administration.
Well, or their input as well.
Yeah, their input.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I agree. It makes sense, Tom.
Would it make sense to have someone in the security industry come to a workshop and present possibly? Just to educate us further on.
I mean, that's
Or do you have somebody who?
I don't have someone in mind, but I mean, it's something I hadn't thought of, but I'd be open to set something like that up, helping. I mean, it's up to, I just want to float the idea of bringing forward like a draft, something with our team. We'd share it with our administration and the board just for consideration, but maybe Sayville schools would.
The school boards association.
Well, certainly New York State can help as well as National Suffolk School Boards. And I know, I actually know there's a board member in West Islip or Islip who actually chairs the resolution committee.
Is there an existing
Oh, I know.
organization
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah,
of
that is-
school
Since they are
security
there, what are the
officials?
credentials
Yeah, is there
for
like
the
a clearinghouse that
education,
exists
like
now? or-
security guard and
Right,
education?
what was your question? I'm
I
sorry.
think we're saying.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Just is there a security guard association, is there a professional association or some sort of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
You know, now that you brought that up, I just want to ask Sam. Sam, I know it went up to Albany about the cameras by the door or whatever. I thought they were already done, but we had to get authorization from the state.
Part
Is
of
it up there?
part of the Smart Bond Act, which there's a plan, they approved it, but, you know, going through the process, the bidding process and availability, installation, price, that's the second hurdle.
Okay, I was just wondering how we, because, you know, the state works slowly. I was hoping the last meeting that it was done, but I found out it wasn't.
So back to James, please. So James, if you want, if you
I'd love to talk about that. I met that ISO when I went with you last year.
Yeah.
I would love an introduction, just talk to you.
I'll give you his number, you give him a ring.
Thank you.
You can have you write something up, present it to the board, and
Great.
we'll make a decision.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, my concern with it is, number one, is unfunded mandate, how much more it's gonna cost the district, and of course the practicality of doing it, and will we grandfather all our current people in?
The thought of our group is that everybody's grandfathered that's currently working. I mean, why make it painful? Considering we believe you're going to stick with it. I think as far as any impact on a taxpayer, zero, because it's just like a teacher who got certified, or an administrator, or a teacher's aide or teacher. They pay for the preparation of the certification.
And certainly security is always on the top of everybody's list. I don't think it would, and I'll just throw it out there, it'd be a bad idea for us to have a meeting with our head of our security as well as the administration to see what other improvements we can continue to make besides your suggestions for
Yeah.
financials.
Great, thanks.
And the board, you had mentioned at one of our previous meetings, so having a meeting with our head of security, so that is in the works.
Good.
Okay.
Give me 1 second, just give me the time. We're gonna go to public
Before you
session.
go to public, I have a question.
Hmm?
I have a question before you go to public. Just a reference to the email I sent for information on those two contracts. If you could just summarize in public what the two contracts are for, why we did those services. It's the Seneca Consulting Group and also the educational data services.
Okay, so specifically, it's item 603, the first one, Seneca Consulting. Since 2013, we've utilized Seneca to prepare the district's Affordable Care Act reports and compliance documents to the IRS. It's actually a requirement of the Affordable Care Act, indicating how many employees take insurance, don't take insurance, and if they're knowing what's in a safe harbor. It's an extremely complex formula and reporting mechanism that does have to go to the IRS annually, and it also is essential in production of what's known as the 1095-C form, which is required in filing of your taxes annually. Seneca has a mechanism that they use with the majority of school districts on Long Island. We utilize their service. If it is misreported or misfiled, the penalty is approximately $2,000 per employee. So it is actually a very worthwhile service to have, because the onus, the responsibility is on them as well. But I have to say, I've used them in other places, and their work is impeccable. The second contract is mentioned as 6.05, Educational Data Services, shortened Ed Data. It's a cooperative bid hosted by the Clarkstown School District in upstate New York. It is a consortium within the tri-state area which provides school districts a myriad of supplies, materials, time, services, so that they don't have to go through the traditional bid process. Because they are dealing with large municipalities and school districts buying in bulk, it affords them the opportunity, similar to going to a Costco or a large-scale operation, the cost benefit of lower prices, and also because it is part of a law that was enacted about 8-9 years ago in the state that allowed joint bidding, cooperative bidding, so we can access that to purchase for buildings and grounds, athletics, curriculum, business office supplies, etc. So in doing that, that's part of the cost savings initiatives that the district has been going through for the past few years, but also complies with the state's initiative for cooperative bid agreements.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, great. We're going to move on to public session. Someone want to move the podium, please, Pete. Before doing so, I just have a brief statement to read that I'm reading at most of all the board meetings. The Board of Education, our administrators, listen carefully to what members of our community have to say. We follow regulations specified by law and policy as we encourage our community members to offer public comment at Board of Education. Board of Education President anyone who participates in public session demonstrates civility, and they address the Board of Education and community. Board of Education meetings are held in public view, giving the public the opportunity to watch, listen to proceedings of the board. In these meetings, district staff updates the board on matters pertaining to the school district. The board may be required to take action, matters related to district operations. Board Policy 1230 provides the opportunity for a period of public comment during these meetings. With that in mind, we offer a brief word on the parameters of the public comment period. We will be setting aside 30 minutes tonight for public session. The board reserves the right to limit public public participation in a given case, or to the extent of the maximum comment period deemed necessary. We may add additional time if needed, of course. Questions and comments by the public are limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to identify themselves or the group they represent. Speakers should conduct themselves in a civil manner and direct the comments to the board. The board will not permit discussions involving individual district personnel, students, or community members. Thanks a lot, and if everyone would like to get up and speak, please step up to the podium. I said that for nothing. Okay.
I was going to say thank you.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Don't need your time.
You can just go ahead, start. Julie, come on, start.
Here's a few questions from the board, but before I ask the questions, I'll provide some background information, which has been reported by Newsday and News 12. In the fall of 2021, there were several allegations of sexual abuse in the Babylon School District. The allegations were directed at current and former teachers and coaches. The allegations were made by former and current students and their parents. The news indicated 1 teacher was placed on leave and then resigned. 5 other teachers were placed on administrative leave, and 1 teacher has been criminally charged with 2 counts of third-degree rape and 1 count of third-degree criminal sexual assault. New York State Attorney General is currently investigating the case, as is the Suffolk Police Department. The news reports indicate this has been going on for decades. The teachers knew about it, the students and parents were silent each time, and the board and the superintendent knew about this behavior. It was described as a known secret and a rape culture by the parents and the community. Since this became public, the superintendent has announced her resignation and the school board president has resigned. Just last month, in March 2022, a former Sayville middle school teacher was arrested and charged with endangering the welfare of a child for serving alcohol to a 16-year-old student in December 2020 while they were a teacher in the middle school. The school contacted the police in May 2021. The teacher worked to the end of the 2021 school year for the school's response. This is all the information that has been reported. In non-reported news, I have heard of instances of abuse within the Sayville football and wrestling teams and a personal experience with abuse on the Sayville soccer team, which is presented to the high school, the district administration, and this entire school board. All of this comes with the athletic director retiring. Superintendent Dr. Stimmel announced his retirement last month, which appeared to come as a complete surprise to the school board at last month's meeting. There seems to be a lack of transparency regarding inappropriate behavior and actions within the school district. As a community, we have not been informed of any of this activity by the school board. We seem to only find out about it in the newspaper or within the community. There may also be a lack of accountability as these actions continue to be discussed in the community, and the articles regarding Babylon frequently mention the parents in the school knew of the issues. So I have a section here from Laura Ahern, who's the executive director of the Crime Victim Center, in response to the Babylon News, and this is what she wrote. By accepting, normalizing, and minimizing this behavior, the school district facilitated the creation and perpetuation of a culture that emboldened a handful of teachers as far back as 1980. Systemic failures by administrators in taking reports and dealing with victims and their parents led to a lack of accountability and helped fuel what is now known as a rape culture within the district. Instead of holding specific teachers accountable for misconduct and holding administrators accountable for not following reporting protocols and taking action, the district often dismissed, blamed, or scared off children and parents, dissuading them from bringing charges. The common thread: a lack of information available to and support for the reporting children and their parents. Generally, when a child makes a complaint against a teacher in a public school district, the district is represented by its attorney and the teacher by a lawyer typically appointed by the union. But the reporting child and parents do not have a victim advocate to protect their rights.
I'm going to ask you to finish.
Unlike in the criminal justice process, when a child is entitled by law to have a victim advocate present throughout the proceedings, this needs to change immediately. What happened at Babylon Junior Senior High School will be the catalyst for a change to bring accountability, procedural improvements, and new laws to our public schools to ensure that reports of misconduct by professionals in a position of trust are never dismissed or mishandled. So as a parent in the community,
I'm going to give you another 20 seconds.
I'm going to take as much time as I need. Thank you.
No, you have 3 minutes.
Good.
I can finish up then.
Okay. As a parent and community member in this district, I am asking each board member tonight to answer the following 4 questions.
Thank you.
Have any allegations of sexual misconduct?
You had 3
Okay,
minutes.
we'll gladly switch people
Okay.
for an arbitrary deadline with no balance.
It's not an arbitrary deadline.
Have any allegations of sexual misconduct founded or unfounded, been reported to the Sayville School District by any teacher, administrator, coach, staff, or any other class of employee or contractor in the last 10 years? Have any allegations?
Sexual misconduct, I just want to
Let her
ask, I
finish,
just
please.
want to.
We didn't, let the individual finish, please.
We'll gladly answer any question you have.
If you want to repeat. Have any allegations of any inappropriate behavior, founded or unfounded, within the Sayville School District been reported about any teacher, administrator, coach, staff, or any other class of employee or contractor? For this, I would describe inappropriate behavior as anything violating school policies, New York State policy, New York State laws, or anything else regarding human rights or civil rights. And the school district is defined as the school buildings, campuses, and any event the school sponsors. Question number 3. Does the district maintain a log of all allegations, either by students, parents, teachers, or anyone who initiates a complaint against a district employee or contractor? Number 4. Has any teacher, administrator, employee, coach, or contractor been retrained or reassigned based on the reported allegations?
So as a community, we want to know what is going on in this district, because we are hearing things within the community that does not come from the district.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we expect answers either at the next board meeting? We'd like the board to address the community of these types of issues.
Would you mind could you have a copy of all those questions, please? Can you give me a copy of it? Just give Mr. Branscombe, please. Any other community comments?
Yeah, I have something to say. I think the last, good evening. I think the last board meeting, Dr. Gurgis, you mentioned something about re-roofing the schools. Roofing?
Roofing. Yeah.
Roofing the schools?
Roof.
Reskinning.
Resurfacing?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And I think Mr. Verdone mentioned, is it just resurfacing or redecking? And you said, no, just resurfacing, correct?
No, it would be, to answer the question, it would be reskinning the roof and also improving.
Is that gravel?
What's that?
Is that gravel roof?
No. It's a vinyl type rubber.
Right.
Material.
3 layer.
It would also include redecking the roof, yes.
Redecking also?
As in on the corners on the side.
Parapets?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Did you say,
it's not-
I'm sorry, what term did you just use?
Parapet.
Parapet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what
It is not taking the entire roof out.
I got it, I follow you. Okay.
Dr. Gurley,
So-
can you just finish to ask your questions?
Yeah, I am. That's
Dr.
what
Gurley
I'm getting
answer
to.
all questions at the end.
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned a bid of $12.3 million for re-roofing?
That's the approximate estimate.
Okay, estimate. And that was from what company?
Oh, our architects.
The
Our architects
architect.
provided the estimate.
They did, okay, they did the drawings, but what contractor provided that number?
I don't have a specific contractor. This is their estimate that they provided to us. This has not gone out to bid yet.
Oh, okay.
It is not-
So that was my question.
Yes.
Was it out to bid?
There's an entire process that goes behind that, assuming that the bond passes. Then there's the financing piece, and then there would be a bid process by which this would be.
Right, and how many bids do you intend to get on that?
I can't answer that. I have no
Well, it should be at least 3.
Well,
Yeah, it should be
Can
at
I
least.
can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Would it be better for you just to call Dr. Gurgis' office and get the... all the
That's a good
details?
possibility. Yeah, that's a good
let's sit
possibility.
down and go over.
I just might do that.
244-653.
My other concern was, I know that in the schools, you're still testing for COVID on staff members, right?
We're following the state and county.
I'm a little confused. Now, why in common sense, I'm just asking a question.
No, what I'm going to say is, please, ask away,
Yeah, I'm just-
and then we'll answer at the
Yeah,
end.
why are you still testing staff members who have no symptoms, but yet you're not testing students? I don't understand the logic behind that. You're testing people, when you're sick, you go to the doctor, and you get tested. Staff members who are healthy are still getting tested every Friday at the expense of their insurance company. Now you wonder why your rates are going up. So why are they still continuing to test on Friday when they're not showing any symptoms or either had COVID or had the vaccine or whatever the case may be? Still being tested. I don't understand the logic behind that.
Is that your last question?
For you, Tom, yes. That was it. That was just.
Thank you. Well, again, I always like to go through, and I apologize, I like to go through, sorry, I like to have all the questions asked or comments made, and at the end, answer all the questions, this way we don't I don't want to burn anyone's time unnecessarily, so please ask your questions, and at the end, in usually 3 minutes, and we'll be able to try to get answers to all your questions. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, so to answer the question, we follow the state and county law, and we are required to do that. So it is a requirement. So you're smiling, but you know that is the law.
It's ridiculous, that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
can I ask you, with all due respect,
Yes, sir.
have you reached out to Dr. Piggott or Mr. Ballone?
No, I have not.
So right now, they have established these procedures for Suffolk County. Dr. Branscombe, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, and I have been talking with our attorney. So we're looking to see if the county will move towards something that will allow maybe a little bit more discretion for our employees.
Yeah, I would say so,
So-
logically, I'm just saying, if you're not showing any symptoms, why are you getting tested?
I think we all agree with the same logic.
Exactly, I know, I think we all are on the same page with this.
Department of Health, though, is the one.
But every time someone gets tested, they charge the insurance company, that's $450 for a test. It's $450 each time they get tested.
And then just very quickly, Mr. and Mrs. Mignatello.
Yes.
Can I just have one question? Are you aware of any improprieties right now that you want to share, you know, either with me tomorrow or at another time? So do you have firsthand knowledge? I mean, you know, we are all concerned with what we heard in Babylon.
Yeah.
And in Sayville, we take that very seriously. And you do understand we cannot discuss personnel matters. So, you know, I can assure you we have addressed, when issues have come to our attention of impropriety, we are a human institution, things do happen. We do address them and we do take them very seriously. So the building principal, I would say, would be your first contact if you want to, you know, if you have firsthand knowledge of something, you know, but you could also come here.
Can I just add something? I called Laura Curran and I spoke to her actually, because I just wanted to understand the rolling out a model for basically investigations and allegations. I wanted to understand it because I was just concerned about what happened in Babylon, and I worry about my own children. I have 2 daughters in high school. So I don't really know her, but I know of her. We've crossed paths just to understand what they were dealing with. So I'm kind of eager to learn more about that model that they're going to roll out. And what she had indicated to me was that in Babylon, I think they've recognized, like, they're kind of ashamed, and they're embracing that model that they're going to roll out. And Laura's Ahern impression is that that will probably end up being a statewide model. They're going to pilot it at Babylon. They're invested in it, Babylon. My hope is that, I think the term you identified was a rape culture.
Not my term.
No, Laura Ahern, that was her term from the article. That was alarming to me. And just to know that we're doing our jobs, I wanted to educate myself. So I appreciate you speaking about that.
And I really do encourage you to reach out to Dr. Simmel as soon as you can about it.
Okay.
Be more than appreciated. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have recommended action minutes. Part 1, I need a motion, please.
Motion.
Discussion? All those in favor? Recommended action finance, Article 6.1 to 6.10. Motion, please. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? New business personnel, I need a motion, 7.1 to 7.5, please.
Second.
Discussion? Discussion? All passed, thank you. Yes, sir. Well, during, actually, in this personnel schedule, we just appointed our newest AD, and Mr. Cox. Congratulations. We're looking forward to a long-term relationship and welcome. It's going to be welcome back. It's going to be a great opportunity for our community, our schools, and our students, and our athletes. So thank you so much for joining our team. Thank you. New business. I'm sorry. Upcoming dates. Do we need a motion? Upcoming dates. No, it's on board. 8-1 upcoming dates, and I need a motion, why not? Huh? Okay, we don't need to do that, right? We don't need a motion. Okay, new business other, 9-1 to 9-2, please. Second? Second. All those in favor? Motion carried. I need a motion to adjourn. Well, you all shocked at me like we're doing something else. Okay, I need a motion to stay. Have a great